Hey, let me just commend y'all on what a fantastic response from the community, right?
Amen.
This is awesome to come out here and see this many people coming together for a good cause. And so y'all, give yourself a round of applause for that. I will tell you, I've spoke at many a wild game supper, and I don't know that I've been the one that has touched me like this one has, because a lot of times I go to them and I can tell that people are just there for the event, but I can tell that people are here tonight for each other. And I think when we talk about the church and we talk about the community, that's what it should be about, right? So I just want you to know y'all have touched me tonight. You know, we talk about wild game suppers, and I had to ask myself, well, and I always, every time I come, well, what are we going to have? What kind of wild game are we going to have? Like, I'm that guy. I'll eat anything you put in front of me, okay? And just for the sake of being able to say, I ate one, right? And so I want to know what kind of wild game we're going to have. And then I got to think about, well, what exactly is wild game, you know? And so I can't help but think to myself, that as we stand here tonight, subject to drugs, violence, pornography, gambling, alcoholism, I'm not so sure we ain't the wild animals.
Amen.
I don't know that we aren't the wild game. And so, I know that we named this a wild game supper because of all that on the table over there. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't just at least acknowledge that we might be the wildest beast in the room. Amen.
Amen.
I grew up in Baldwin County. And look, I grew up, I'm not that guy that says, you know, I'm so old that I walk to school both ways uphill in the snow. I'm not. I see some of y'all out there that did that. That wasn't me. But I did, like I had a turn knob on the TV, and you had to adjust the rabbit ears, right? That was my age group. And so what that meant was is we didn't spend all our time inside. We spent a lot of time outside. My parents got divorced when I was 9 years old, and I'm also not here to tell you some sob story about how awful my childhood was. But I will tell you that God's great outdoors was a really good way for me to escape the realities of life. So I spent a lot of time in the Mobile River Delta. And we'd go red fishing and speck fishing and bass fishing, and we'd go harass alligators, and we'd go hunt hogs, and me and my buddies, we'd do anything we could do in the Delta. So I want to tell you a story. They told me I had 15 or 20 minutes. I'm just here to tell you I'm a lawyer. We ain't ever done nothing in 15 or 20 minutes. We get paid. If you've never hired a lawyer, he's going to tell you I get paid by the hour, not by the 15 or 20 minutes, okay? So years later, a friend of mine, one of the guys that I grew up with, we decided to do a little reunion of sorts. We were going to go fishing. Met down there on the causeway. If any of you know where Felix's is or the fish house is, we put in at that launch right across from there. We motored up the Spanish River, and went up the Middle River, and went up into Chocolate Bay, and went up to Mallard Fort. This was late August. There's lily pads on, but the fort is a creek. I don't know why they call it a fort, but it's about as wide as this building. And there's lily pads 100 yards deep on each side. And listen, it was 187 degrees that day. And every bass in the world was hovering under those lily pads in the shade. And all you had to do was throw anything you could throw into a hole in the middle of the lily pads, and they'd tear it up. And I'm telling you, if we didn't catch 1,000 fish that day, we didn't catch one, okay? probably the best day of fishing I've ever had in my life. And so, we wearing them out. We had a half gallon of water and a sleeve of saltine crackers and a can of snuff. And so, as with any expedition led by men, we were well prepared for everything that life could throw at us, right? You had the three basic essentials. You had tobacco, you had bread, and you had water. I don't know what else you needed. So it came time to go. Sun was getting on down. We'd only seen one boat that whole day because it was, did I mention it was a Tuesday? And it was in August. And did I tell you it was 187 degrees? You see, everybody else had one of two things that we didn't have that day. They either had to go to work, and we had both taken off, or they had good sense, and clearly we didn't have any of that day. So we'd only seen one boat. It was getting on pretty late. It was probably 7:30 or 8 because the sun set pretty late that time of the year. And I said, you know, we probably better get on down the road, get on down the river, and when we get back to the boat launch before it's just pitch black. So we started putting our stuff up, and we told stories about who caught the biggest fish. We always, I know we in the church, Pastor Joe, but I will confess to you, we bet $1 the first fish and $1 the biggest fish. And neither one of us ever pays because we always argue about who caught the first fish and who caught the biggest fish. And so we argued about that. We attaboyed each other about how good a fisherman we are and how Bill Dance and Roland Martin ain't got nothing on us and we ought to have our own TV show and this, that, and the other. And finally I said, how come we ain't moving? And I looked over at him and all I can see is his hand doing this. I said, crank the boat. And so I thought he was playing. I went, crank the boat, dummy, come on. The mosquitoes is eating me. I mean, like, and by this time now, the blood is leaving his face. I begin to realize he is not pulling my leg. So, we didn't have any power. You know what we did have? Again, being well prepared for professionals as we are. You ever seen one of those paddles that's about 3 feet long? We had one of them bad boys right there. And it was about as useful as a blender would have been in that boat, okay? So there we were, no power, helpless, couldn't do anything. And so we did what any self-respecting, red-blooded American male would do. We got a dip of snuff and we went to fishing again. And we drifted right on down that Mallard Fork, and I just told him, I said, well, ain't nothing we can do. We'll just drift on out of here. Eventually, we'll get back to the causeway. It may be 2 or 3 days from now, but eventually we'll get there. Well, a couple hours go by, and as the fishing wanes, as the sun sets and the bite cools off, and we start to have to face the bitter reality that we really do have a problem here. You see, in life, that's what we usually do. We usually, when we are confronted with a problem in life, what we want to do is distract ourselves so we don't have to deal with the reality of it. My marriage is in trouble, and so I'm going to work more so that I don't have to be home to deal with the reality of the trouble of my marriage. My kids are heathens, and so I'm going to invest in some other time-consuming endeavor so that I don't have to deal with the reality that I don't really know how to deal with my kids, right? In life, we like to distract ourselves from the things that matter when the things that matter get hard. So, a couple of 3 hours go by, the sun has set, the bite has cooled off, and it starts to set in that we are powerless. You see, we didn't have any power. But still, the curious thing was on that river, even though we didn't have any power, we were still moving. We were still drifting with the current. Why? Because there was something bigger than us at work. And even though here in life we don't have any power, there's something, I promise you, bigger than us at work. The question is, do you know where to find real power?
came all the way over here. But let me tell you what Bigfoot likes to do. He likes to throw some rocks at you when you're doing it. He likes to do a bunch of tree knocks. He likes to do a lot of whistling. He likes to do a lot of howling. And Bigfoot is our friend. He likes to peek around trees at you, watch you, but he loves to howl. And also, we have a special guest, Scott, that's coming to join us today. If y'all all pay attention to the back door, Bigfoot is coming.
I missed this call.
Good job, Will.